What up, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. I am your host, Joseph Marohn, and today we're going to be breaking down one of the most exciting and profitable avenues in real estate investing. I'm talking about a game-changing strategy to transform overlooked, rundown gems and turn them into cash-flowing machines. One of the most rewarding paths to financial freedom while simply creating unique spaces for community and travel. Today, we're going to be showing you guys why you should be investing into RV parks. RV parks are simply dedicated spaces designed for travelers to park and stay at their recreational vehicles. They offer amenities such as power hookups, water, and sometimes communal facilities. As more and more people seek affordable housing and flexible travel options, the demand for RV parks has continued to grow, making them an increasingly popular asset for real estate investors. Now, unlike traditional rentals, RV parks can offer high returns with relatively low maintenance costs and the ability to generate steady cash flow to build long-term wealth. Now, if RV parks is a path in real estate that sounds like you should be focusing more on, then stay tuned because we're going to be giving you all the gems you need to acquire your first RV park today. Now, you know how we do it on the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. If we're going to do it, we got to do it right. We can't just bring on anyone to speak about RV parks. We got to bring on the queen of RV parks. Today, our special guest on the podcast is Mychele Bisson. Michelle is a dedicated real estate investor and fund manager focused on RV park acquisitions. In the past year, she has acquired 3 parks with 500 pads and has 2 more under contract, totaling $11 million in assets. Known for spotting lucrative investment opportunities, Michelle delivers strong returns for investors while enhancing property standards and community engagement. She is actively pursuing new ventures in the expanding RV market. Michelle joins us today to show us not only how lucrative the RV park space can be, but also how to buy them with little to no money out of pocket to maximize our cash flow. So without further ado, I've been talking long enough. Everyone, if you will, please allow me to formally introduce to you Mychele Bisson. Mychele, what's up? How are you doing today?
Hi, Joseph. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for that intro. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Left to say now. I'm good.
Absolutely. Hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Bisson, yes.
Bisson. Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, so the day's treating you well this Monday?
It is. Actually, we are in the middle of packing. We just had a massive snowstorm for the last 4 days and got like 4 feet of snow. So we've been locked in our house for 4 days, actually, which actually was really, really nice. So
sometimes you need that quiet time to get away and just silence the world, right?
Yeah, no, it was really nice. We put up the Christmas tree. I hung out with my youngest. It was great. So
Awesome. Well, Michelle, welcome to the Real Estate Unlocked podcast, a place where we bring value to new and intermediate investors by bringing on guests who are extremely knowledgeable, such as yourself, to cover real estate topics on a very basic entry level. Now, I'm excited about this topic because RV parks is a very interesting business model. I literally had no idea how interested I would be in it until you and I had a conversation about them. So I know your schedule is extremely busy and crazy. So thank you for taking the time to come hang out with us today.
Well, I'm just incredibly honored you invited me. But yeah, our conversation started with 15 minutes and it ended up going like 2 hours.
I know. I was looking back at it. I was like, man, that could have been a podcast right there in itself. We were talking about so many gems on that conversation. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So let's just dive right into this. So Michelle, can you start by sharing what inspired you to invest in RV parks? Why are they so unique and attractive compared to like other real estate investments?
Well, I originally actually started in single family homes. And so we had built up a long-term rental portfolio and then went into short-term rentals. because we were looking for a larger cash flow. And then from there, we actually built a resort in Scottsdale and, great cash flow. But when we really started looking at everything and started really going through numbers, we wanted something that cash flowed immediately at higher numbers with more doors and something that was a greater return with less maintenance. And we actually found all of that in RV parks. So
Interesting. Okay, so for me, and maybe I'm just on the outside looking in, but I'm like, Michelle's caught on very quickly to this, and I'm just curious, how are you finding so much success so fast? Like, how did you become so knowledgeable about them?
You know what? My thing is that if you're going to do something, especially in something as big as real estate, you need to focus, and learn everything that you can on the one asset that you are working on. So I know there are people who are constantly jumping back and forth between different things.
Right.
I've just found that our success has always been to focus on one path, master it, and then move on to the next one. And so we've done that repeatedly over the course of the last 5 years with our investments. And this last year did the same thing with RV parks. We knew where our path was. We set out a goal and we just went for it fully in. Like we moved into the park, our first park, we lived there for 3 months and we did everything on our own.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's real easy, especially being in like Pace Morby's mentorship, to get shiny object syndrome because there's so many challenges, there's so many different ways you can invest in real estate. But the fact that you honed in on this one topic and you just really dived in and really mastered it, that's incredible. Now, did you have any resources or mentors that really helped you accelerate your knowledge in this space?
There wasn't a lot of information on RV parks when we went into it. Like that was kind of the thing that I thought was a little crazy. There's not really a lot of good books or a lot of good, there's Heather Blankenship, who I love and adore. She was great. I get a lot of information out of her. We talk pretty regularly, but I think that, as in book wise, she just released a book, which has been extremely helpful. And that was probably the first book that I found that actually gives you a lot of good information. But going into the space, there wasn't a lot of people doing it.
Right.
And so we really had to kind of figure it out. And what we ended up doing was we went to different conferences and things where there were a lot of owners and just started really networking in the groups and getting to know different owners and learning from their past mistakes and the things that they were successful with.
Interesting. And then you mentioned Heather's book. Do you know the title of that book so we can pop that up on the screen here?
Yeah, it is. Actually, I have it right here. I think it is Campgrounds. Real Estate Campgrounds.
Real Estate Campgrounds. Okay, we'll make sure to pop that up on there in case anybody else wants to take a read, because you said it was very beneficial for you. Anything kind of stood out in that book that you learned on there?
I learned a lot actually about the different types of campgrounds and just different ways that you figure out whether they're worth investing in and things like that. But the thing is that it came after I had started investing.
Right.
So if it would have come out beforehand, I think I would have jumped on this asset a lot sooner. But definitely now that we're in it, as I was going through the book, there were a lot of things in there that I wish I would have known going in.
Got you.
So.
Okay, so then like for the people like that are out there like myself that don't really know too much about investing in RV parks, maybe talk about some of the key benefits and potential returns of owning an RV park.
Well, one of the biggest key benefits is that I know a lot of people that are, deciding whether they want to do something like multifamily or RV parks or mobile home storage, mobile home parks or storage units. And one of the biggest things that RV parks actually give you is, one, they give you the immediate cash flow, which I find amazing, as opposed to multifamilies where it's kind of a longer play. You invest your money, you kind of wait. RV parks will give you cash flow starting from day one. You can reposition them and put lots of multiple different businesses inside of each RV park. So instead of like mobile home parks where they have long-term guests, or storage units where they don't have guests at all, or multifamilies where you're kind of limited, in RV parks, I kind of have an open arena to do whatever it is that I want. So I've added, we have golf carts on a park that make an extra $100,000 a year. We've added ice machines that can average anywhere between $30,000 to $70,000 a year. You can add in community centers that you can rent out. community stores for your guests to buy things from. They love to buy gear that reminds them of their favorite campground. One of our campgrounds has a huge water slide and arcade, and we sell daily passes for people in the community to come in and use our facilities, which is an added value. We also have like paddleboard rentals, a giant lake where you can catch and release fish. We can do anything from daily to weekly to monthly stays. So we capitalize on if the economy is not going so great and everybody needs a more affordable place to live. Mm-hmm. We're still probably one of the most affordable places that you can live in any town. On the other side, if things are going great, we also have the nightly and weekly where you can come in and stay with us for a night or a week, and we actually benefit from dynamic pricing.
Yeah, that's incredible, because now you've created not just a space to live, but you created this experience, right, for them to have. And now you've opened up other avenues and streams of income that you can create with other businesses you can put on there. That's thinking outside the box there, Michelle. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, we've actually learned quite a bit just doing different things. I mean, one of the things that we learned this last year was that we could sub-to and seller finance RVs. And so as people were selling them, we were buying them and putting them on our parks and renting them for nightly stays. And that way we were, helping the people who come in, who have guests who don't necessarily have RVs. They're renting them from us to stay with their friends on the campground.
That's smart. Where are you finding these RVs that you're able to do a creative finance deals on?
You can find them pretty much anywhere. You can find them either on Marketplace on Facebook. We have found them from people who have come and stayed with us or selling theirs because of life changes and things that have happened that they no longer wanted to travel or needed to upgrade. So
awesome. Now, what are the first steps a new investor should take when they're considering investing into RV parks?
I would definitely say that one of the first things they should do is they need to start learning about the asset. You want to make sure that you know kind of the ins and outs of an asset. You want to know what you're going into, what kind of work is expected from you in them, and what you can expect when you go in.
Got it. Okay. Now, I know there's RV parks pretty much everywhere, right? RV parks are in every state.
Yes.
How do you know what's a good market or a location for an RV park? And are there any specific criteria that you look for to evaluate if it's a good location?
Well, the biggest things that we look for is, one, we like to be in a tourist area. So someplace that has like a national park or something that has a large drive of people that come to the community for a reason or two. Anything that has like a large festival. One of the things that we do try to avoid is a place that has a large festival that's only one time a year. Because that limits all of your money into 1 week, and then you're capped kind of on what you can do. Right. So like one of our parks is in Branson, Missouri. There are 10 million people who come into Branson, Missouri every year. So they come in from March until December. That is a solid 10 months of people flowing in and out of the city, which is amazing. You want to look at something like that, where there's lots of things like that, or like one of our other parks is actually a destination area itself where people specifically come to that park.
Got it. Okay. And then, so how many RV parks total do you have right now?
Currently, we have 3 under ownership, 1 under contract, and then we're working on a couple more.
Awesome. And where are yours located? What market are you in?
Right now, we're mainly in the Midwest. So we've got a few in Missouri, and then another one in Virginia. And then a couple of the others we're working on are a little more to the west.
Got it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a lot to handle for a solopreneur, right? So what type of team do you need to put together to successfully operate an RV park? And is it a good idea to use a third-party management company?
So my thing is that I think, one, you should always go into your asset and fully know it. So we moved into our first asset by ourselves and like learned how to run everything, everything ourselves. Like we learned back-end systems, putting in advertising, putting in like redid piping. We did all of that ourselves for 3 months so that we could really fully understand what we were getting into, and so that we could fully go into a new park and know exactly what it is that we would have to do in order to set a new park up. And I think that's really beneficial, because then when you have managers in your parks and they talk about a certain situation or something, you have firsthand knowledge, and you can say, well, I know that, these water pipes do this over here, or, this bathroom does this, or the back end system does this. And so it makes it a lot easier to help your managers, especially if you're not on site all the time, if you fully understand what your asset does and how it works and runs. But one of the big things that we've done is we have put in managers that we have found either through work campers or through connections. I'm very, very thankful that I've got wonderful friends and family who are all willing to go on adventures with me. And so like right now, I am currently placing my best friend and her husband as managers in one of my largest parks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're excited to go out there. I'm very surprised, but it's literally an hour away from family, and it gets them back out to the Midwest so they can be closer. They just recently went through some family changes and needed to be closer to family. And through our parks, I was able to help them do that. So that was exciting. As for third party management companies, I feel like you kind of have to really vest them and really know them in and out. One of the things that I'm not particularly fond of when it comes to third party and campground managers is they tend to take full control of your park. And I don't feel like there's a lot of transparency in that. I like to kind of know. I'm one of those people who kind of needs to have a little bit of a hands-on experience on what's going on. Right. I want to see how my parks are doing. I don't want to leave that fully in the hands of somebody else. So I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable fully giving up control of our parks that way, but we do have a wonderful manager that we actually just recently moved into an acquisitions part where she is going to be hired by our main company and actually go to different parks and help train our managers in our culture.
Yeah, I could see that, because we've had some bad experiences ourselves with like using third party management companies. And you're right, a lot of times they're like completely all hands on. They don't give you a lot of access to like the systems and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
obviously a lot of terrible things can go wrong if the relationship goes sour, right? So
yeah. And it's really hard too, because like if they have control of all of your Facebook pages and your system and they've put all those things in place, the exit is always a really hard situation if you find that you guys aren't compatible. And so thankfully, in the experience that we had, I kept control of most of our platforms myself. And that actually helped when we transitioned out.
yeah, and I think like as you continue to scale out, and really build up, more RV parks in your portfolio, I think it'd be wise to possibly even build an in-house, property management team, and then that way you have that full control and everything's in-house.
Yeah. And that is ultimately the goal, especially since we have such a big goal in the next 2 years to acquire. We want to be at 10 or 15 parks. So we're going to need an in-house team that just does everything, which is where we've pulled this new manager and we've decided that she's now going to be the one who goes out and trains all of our new managers for us. That's kind of the start of doing all of that so that all of our parks have the same exact customer service. They have the same exact onboarding systems. Everything works exactly the same. Like that was the goal in that.
Yeah, that sounds like a smart plan. Now, what are the day-to-day responsibilities of running an RV park, and how do you manage reservations, customer service, and maintenance?
So we actually, depending on the size of each of our parks, it depends on who we have on staff. So all of our parks have one main manager that keeps everything going. So she takes care of all of our back end systems. She ensures that all of the check-ins are done. She makes sure that, everything in the park is running up and going every single day. All the bathrooms are cleaned, all the facilities are checked on, all of our maintenance stuff is up to date. We usually like to keep one maintenance man on staff that's usually at the park at all hours, so that if anything happens there, he's on hand right away where he can help fix pipes or, fix whatever happens. And then everything else from there is just kind of based on the size of your park and what you have going on at your park. But we like to keep an assistant manager on as well, just in case our park manager wants to go on vacation. During downtime, it's a little easier for them. They just pick and choose days where they're busy and not busy, and then they take their days off as they go. But during peak season, they're back to back. So it's, there are times where we have like 6 to 10 different people checking in at any given time. And so it's nice to have somebody who can give them a day off.
Right, right. And are they on site at all times, or are they just on call?
So all of our parks except for one has a manager that's on site.
Got it. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And the one that does not is fully automated, and everything, all of the systems there are streamlined. So she comes in on days when it's busy, and then everything else is handled through her phone on days that it's not. But
Got
we
it. Got it.
do still have a maintenance man that is on site to oversee everything while she's not there.
Makes sense. Okay, so I know most people have no idea where to even begin looking for an RV park. I mean, I run a wholesale business and I've never came across one once. I
Oh,
mean, we might find a house with a hole in the roof with 20 cats in the front yard, but we're
yeah.
not finding these, right? So, where are you finding these type of deals, Michelle? Do you and Pace have an inside source or what? Let us in.
You know what? I think that it really depends. A lot of people will do cold calling. Prop AI is amazing for all of
Okay.
that. So a lot of people are using Prop AI to do cold calls. If you personally travel in your RV, I suggest talking to the people that run the campgrounds that you usually go to. Eventually, they do want to retire. And if you show an interest, that's a really good place to start. Check in your local neighborhood. Maybe there's an RV park locally within the next 50 miles of you that is probably looking to retire. You'd be surprised how many times that happens. And maybe it's just you sparking that conversation with them that will actually get them to stop and say, you know what, maybe we should be looking at what our exit plan is. A lot of these are mom and pops. And so what happens is they don't plan on an exit. They started these
Mm,
when they were younger, and they built them up over the last 20 or 30 years. And they never thought about, well, what happens when we want to get out?
right.
It was always, oh, we're building this and we're raising our kids here and our kids will want it. And then they get to that point and their kids don't want it. And
Makes sense.
so, sometimes you sparking that conversation is exactly what they need. And so I think those are really great places to start. For my team in particular, we get a lot of off market leads, and that
Okay.
comes from being just in the industry. People know what we're doing. And so they'll
More word of mouth type of deal.
Yeah, and they'll come and they'll say, "Hey, have you met this couple? They buy up parks and they actually care about what it ends up looking like." And so one of our big things for our particular group is we like to ensure the seller that we want to keep your legacy alive. We just want to make sure that we upgrade, the bathroom facilities and make sure that it's continuing on to the next century. But when you come back with your great grandkids, same campfire, just a new bathroom.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind
You
of
get
the big thing that we have. So
Yeah, you get to really build out their dream that they originally had planned, and for whatever reason it didn't come fruition, and you're able to kind of put that and piece it together. So that's incredible.
yeah, and it's a big deal for us. I know that a lot of these mom and pops, when they went into it, they do have really big dreams and goals and aspirations for their park. And for some reason or another, they get caught up in the day to day and they either don't have the capital to do what they want to do or they don't have the time. And so we come in with capital and time and say, okay, you know what? We've got systems that we're going to place in, put in managers, and then we're going to build out what you dreamed of doing in the first place. So it's a
That's
nice
so
way for
smart.
them to continue into retirement, keep most of the money that they've invested into it, if not more, get closer to their selling price, and actually be able to live comfortably after knowing that their park isn't going to turn into a multifamily after they leave.
Now, the parks that you have in your portfolio, were these all purchased creative finance, or did you come out of pocket on these?
No, they were all done creatively, actually. So
Nice.
we have been very, very lucky to have met great sellers who have worked with us on ensuring that they can retire comfortably. And so it has been a wonderful thing that we've been able to go into each of our parks without any money out of our own pocket. We have 100% seller financed deals. We have hybrided deals. We've brought in money partners on deals. And now that we have our fund, we're actually bringing in investors. And what we're trying to do is to continue buying these parks as creatively as possible and going in with as little money as possible and using the fund to actually reposition them so that we can get them cash flowing at capacity as quickly as possible.
I love that. Yeah, that's very strategic right there. And you mentioned a fund. You started up a fund. Is that correct?
We did. We did.
Okay.
It'll be 2 weeks ago. So we are actively bringing on investors. If you want to find it, you can actually find it at bisonpeakventures.com. But yeah, we brought in it's a $5 to $25 million fund. We are actively bringing in capital. We're using that capital in order to reposition the newest parks that we've brought on. Virginia will be one of them, which is the one that I'm actually heading out to tomorrow. And that one has a large water park. It's got a private lake that we, seed so that you can come out and catch and release. We've got paddle boards, we've got playgrounds, we've got a full arcade. We're redoing the grill. We've got a new manager who's going out, who's going to start doing like strength training classes and weekly walk groups and book clubs. And actually we have an entire full calendar of activities that go on all year long.
It's almost like you've created the Disneyland experience at your parks.
Right. Each one of our parks is different. And I love that because it's just a whole different group of different avenue of things that we can do. So that park in particular has that. I mean, we've got pickleball courts, we've got basketball courts and everything else. The one that we're under contract for actually has a marina and full restaurant that is actually really popular in the area. And then we've got cabins and we've got lots of room to expand. So we're thinking of adding like 200 more cabin and RV pads.
Awesome. Yeah. Now there's tons of different RV parks, right? You have campgrounds, there's luxury RV resorts, there's seasonal parks. Which type should a new investor in the space target for their first couple parks?
I'm not one to tell you not to go big, but I am going to say that you need to be able to handle the capacity of what you do. And so I personally don't believe anybody should go for under 50 pads. But I think as a new investor, maybe try to stay under 100.
Right.
Just because if you start adding too many things all at once, like the maintenance of water slides, that's a lot of money to like keep up and a lot of maintenance to kind of go into. So if you're going to be a brand new investor and go into something, I say between 50 and 100 pads is a really good place to start. A starting NOI, we like to start at $200,000 for multiple reasons. One, we want to be able to reposition the park and rebrand it. We're going to need to put in back-end systems. We're going to have to put them online. A lot of these parks don't have an online presence. Then you have advertising. You have to place a manager unless you want to personally run the thing forever, which I was never in that space. I don't want to run my parks. I just want to know how they run and I want to place good managers in them. So making sure that you have enough to pay a good manager because you do get what you pay for. And then room to actually do, like what we do is we have a hybrid. So we keep a certain group of our pads and we keep them for long-term guests, and those ensure that the bills are paid every month. And then everything else is vacationers, and those do daily and weeklies, and that is where all of our cash flow comes from.
Now, these parks that you purchased, was there opportunities to add more pads onto them? And if there was, what does that cost look like to add a pad and bring on all the utilities and power hookups and everything?
Well, I think it really depends on the actual park. So yeah, all of our parks actually have expansion opportunities. So one of the things that we're real big on is just, one, we want to stabilize the asset that we have currently before we turn around and expand, because we want the parks to pay for themselves. We don't ever want to have to bring in more capital. We want it to actually just kind of pay for itself as it goes. And so what we try to do is we try to make sure, like our Branson Park is a great example. We've got 5 extra acres that we get to expand onto. But when we went into it, the park was floundering. And so we really needed to reposition it and get it stable. And so we're heading into a really solid year of being stabilized and doing a really good job placing great management. We've got now repeat guests. We've raised our reviews from 2 stars to, I think I just checked, it was like 4.7. So we're just under 5. And we've got a lot of guests that are returning, are already booking for the following year, which means that our next year is going to be phenomenal. And we've not had it for a year. December 28th, will be our 1-year anniversary of owning that park. And so now that we're getting that one stabilized, now we're considering going back and rebuilding out the back ends. So adding pads to that park and building out the back, you've got to remember when you're doing that, it's not just the pad that you're thinking about. You're also adding in the electricity lines, the sewer lines, the water lines. Then you have to build the roads that go back there. And then you've got to build out any structures. So like you're going to need extra facilities, like you're going to need an extra set of bathrooms back there for everybody. So all of that, you probably average between $15,000 to $50,000 a pad, depending on how elaborate you want to get.
Got it. And then, so as far as the actual RVs themselves, I know you said you've kind of purchased those creatively. What price are you kind of getting those at?
We usually like to stay just under 50,000
Okay.
and then take them over seller finance. So the ones that we've actually purchased, we've done for zero money out of pocket. We've
Okay.
seller financed and taken over loans, and then we've probably put about $400 into outfitting them and then putting them on the market. And they make us about 25,000 extra dollars a year per camper.
Got it. Okay. And so I know obviously creative finance is always for the win, right? If you could purchase something with, no money down, that's always going to be your best option. But would you say like starting from scratch and building an RV park would be a better approach than buying an existing one? Or, what would be the pros and cons to each option?
Well, see, so here's the thing is that I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing. I think that if you can do it, it's a wonderful, amazing thing. Then you get to build out your vision. But when you go back and actually look at it, as I said before, first you've got to figure out your plan, then you've got to find your place, right? So now you've got to buy the land. So now you're buying the land for however much that is. Then you've got to bring in an architect, because you can't just build it with a huddle.
Right.
You've got to bring in an architect and a designer that will actually help you work with the city. Then you've got permits and zoning that you've got to work out, which can be anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000 themselves. Then you've
With
got,
delays.
yeah, and then there's the time,
Yes. Yep.
just the time of all of that. So, I mean, that can take like 6 months to a year to just get that built out. Then you turn around and you've got to put in all the horizontals. Then you've got the water, sewer. Are you hooking up to the city? Do you need another permit for that? How much is that going to cost? Are you putting in septic? How much is that going to cost?
Hmm.
Then you've got water lines where you're going to hook up. So you've got to figure out all of that stuff. Then you've got to put in roads, facilities, amenities, a clubhouse. Those are all things that need to be added to your bottom line. Then as soon as you get it open, just because you build it does not mean they will come. Now you've got to advertise it. So you're going to be holding that asset. And on average, you usually don't break even on a built RV park for about 3 to 5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It does sound better now that you kind of laid it out like that. Yeah, it does sound better to just purchase it creatively.
Yeah.
Now, I know you had kind of off topic here, but I know you had a new development resort that you build out in Arizona. How long was that project just to kind of compare?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
It was
Okay.
2 years. And I mean, granted, our problem is that we also went over COVID as we were building it. And so
Oh, okay.
there was a moment where work stopped, and then everybody could only come in small increments. So we could only have like 2 to 6 people on job site at any given time for a little bit. So it took 8 months longer than it was supposed to, but you still have to do all of, the contracting, fighting with, the HOA, if you happen to have one of those, or, council or permits or zonings. All of those things come into play. Then there's keeping your builder on hand. So you need to physically be there in order to make sure that things are running every day.
Do you deal with HOA with RV parks?
No, not so much with that, just zoning more.
Okay, zoning. Okay, got it.
HOAs, I just thought of that because with where our park is, or not our park, but with where our actual
Resort?
resort is there's a large HOA area, and they were trying to put laws and rules on our land, and they weren't allowed to. So it ended up in a big lawsuit. So
HOA would never do that, Michelle. Come on.
I know, right? Oof. So thankfully they've backed off now that, but
Got it.
it was definitely a hassle going into it. But I'm not going to say you shouldn't build them. I'm just saying that at this time, it seems less beneficial for me until you get to a point where you can actually deal with the risk.
Yeah, I think once you've kind of built up to like at a point where where you have like a couple under your portfolio and you're already cash flowing from those, then you're
Yes.
like, now let's start thinking a little more strategic. Let's think a little bigger. Let's just go and build one. Like we have the proof of concept, we have the blueprint down, we have the amenities that we're gonna add in. Now you can kind of just build out your vision, like you said.
Yeah. Well, case in point, like the fourth park that we're actually bringing on that we're closing on is a huge expansion opportunity. It's got, like I said, room for 200 more pads. It is not exactly something we would have gone into in the beginning because it is such a large project and we didn't want to build. But now that we've got 3 that do really well and they're cash flowing and we understand the logistics behind it all, now we're willing to take on a bigger risk.
Makes sense. Okay, so what makes a park a good deal? You seem to have the eye for it. So what exactly are you looking at to determine if it's a solid deal?
Well, like I said, location is always the biggest thing. A place where there's lots of tourists or become the tourist area. Like I said, Virginia is our tourist area. People come specifically for the park. So you either need to build the park that everybody wants to come to, or you need to be next to something that everybody wants to come to. Branson, huge town. We always have a steady flow of people. We also have a park that's right off of Route 66. So it's not necessarily near something, but it is on a route that is extremely popular. And because of that, we're booked 95 to 100% of the time. That one actually does really, really well. It just constantly, we're just a revolving door of people all the time, which is wonderful. Room to expand is always a good thing, because once you hit your stabilize and limit, then it's nice to kind of consider, okay, now how am I going to up more of my revenue? Like I said, we like to have always 50 pads or more in order so that we can, hybrid our park and ensure that, one, it's consistently bringing in cash to pay all the bills, but also so that we can put everything else as travelers and guests come in and out. We like to start at a starting NOI of $200,000 so that we can make sure that we're paying management, placing good people, and ensuring that we have a good customer service experience. We like to start at a 10 cap at least when we buy.
Okay.
Which is really important, because that means that you've got a lot of room to value add. Right. And then we like to look at things that have a lot of opportunity to value add. So can we add a propane tank to increase sales? Can we add a camp store? Can we reposition the community center so people will want to rent it out? Do we add a pool? Does it need a laundry room? Can we add a coin laundry room? All of our parks have coin laundry rooms. Are there other amenities in the area that are needed? Do we add an ice machine? Something as simple as an ice machine, you can make $30,000 to $120,000 a year.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And it's a simple ice machine, putting in vending machines into your, on the outside of your community center. It ensures that, they come home late at night and they just want a snack. I would rather capture those dollars than have them go down to the local gas station.
Absolutely.
And so those are all things that we look at. Can we add golf carts? That's a huge money maker, and we only have 20 of them on that property. They make us $100,000 a year.
Wow.
20 of them. So we're adding 20 more because they're booked 100% of the time. So
yeah, it sounds like the opportunities are endless and you're really limited on what you can think of.
Yeah. And that's really the beauty of RV parks, is that you really can. I mean, you can add tiny homes, you can add facilities, you can add mini businesses in them. You can put RVs on them and rent them out. One of our facilities, we actually had a U-Haul rental center that was coming out of the office. You can do something as simple as putting Amazon, shipping containers out front so that they can get their Amazon boxes in there, which is just an added amenity that you can have. We do movie nights. So, we've got a huge, beautiful community room in one of them where people during this time, especially now that it's Christmas, can go and watch Christmas movies on the big screen. Or one of our parks, actually, we have a huge screen outside. And on Saturday nights, everybody comes and they sit and, get snacks at our grill and then put out a blanket and bring up their little golf carts and they watch movies outside on the grass.
Yeah, I love that. It just creates a good family fun experience at these RV parks.
Yeah.
I want to go stay at one right now.
Yeah. No, you know what? It's honestly probably one of my favorite assets. I've been in multiple assets. Being in my parks is my favorite. So
I remember us having a conversation on the phone and you're like, I actually went and lived at my RV park. Yeah. Talk to us about that experience.
It was an experience. You have to understand, I would live on any of my parks at this point. But the first one that we moved into actually was scary. We had just literally just closed it. I had just kicked out a bunch of drug dealers. It had been overrun. And so it was a little scary. But I felt like I needed to be there, one, to learn my asset, but two, to ensure that my guests that were there were safe. And so it was a really good experience. I'm so thankful that my first RV park was hard. I feel like it really gave me a lot of knowledge going into these other ones. I'm not afraid of them.
Yep. Now the other ones seem easier. Not and I know they're not easy, but that experience built you up for that next journey, right? So
yes. Yeah. And I do have to say, like, if you want to talk about crazy, like my first RV park it had drug dealers in it. There was a prostitute in it. There were crazy, like people screaming and yelling. I mean, my husband had somebody scream at him for like 20 minutes because we moved a swing.
that is crazy.
And so, I mean, just the pure lunacy of some of these. I had one person accuse us of kicking him out while he was on his deathbed.
Oh my God.
And the truth is that one, he was actually asked by his doctors to move out of the RV park because he needed to be living in an apartment in a cleaner environment. And he had 2 large German Shepherds in a small travel trailer with him. And his doctors wanted him to get rid of the dogs and move into a brand new apartment because he had health conditions. And so, and he was just a miserable person just in general. Like and I don't think he meant to be, he just was. And so he start screaming at people on the campground. This was our first one. And so about a month in, we were finally like, you really we're going to listen to your doctors. It's time to go.
Okay, wait. So back to the drug dealers. Are they still roaming the campgrounds, or did you get them out of there?
No. So one of the big things that you find out about campgrounds is they're all very close knit and they're like their own little community. And so the night before I closed on the park, I had told the maintenance man, I was like, hey, we're building up, we're going to redo this park. We want to have a good position. This park had a history of having cops come into it like twice a week. That's how bad it was. And so I told him, I was like, we're building up a lot of community, help. We're getting to know everybody. One of the big things that we've done is we've actually reached out to the police department and made friends with them. And so we've given them permission to come and train their canine unit on our park.
I love that.
And so literally overnight, word got around, and about 1 a.m., I had people tell me at 1 a.m. that guy was pulling everything out. Never
scattered like roaches, huh?
Yeah. Never came back, never asked for a refund. I've never seen him again. As far as I know, I think he moved into the next town. He either moved into the next town, or I heard that he may have moved to Arkansas.
Okay.
So yeah.
Maybe he took over another RV park, huh?
He may have. I just know that he's not in mine. And the nice thing is that in the community that you're in, when it comes to campgrounds, we all kind of look out for each other. And so, like, I know if somebody buys a campground in the area and it's been overrun, people will usually call you and say, hey, so-and-so is cleaning out their campground. Don't take any people for the next week.
That's cool.
And so we know.
A jump ahead, right?
Yeah. So everybody kind of gets the heads up of, hey, they're clearing out. If anybody is calling looking for a long-term place to stay and they're from the area, they probably came from this park.
Okay. Now, I know not everybody's going to have the opportunity to purchase these creative finance or find these killer seller finance deals. What would funding look like if you were to purchase one, traditionally? Would you be using private money, maybe a syndication or a fund? How exactly would they fund these deals?
So I would definitely look at private money. Syndication, always a great thing. The thing is that if you're going into these and you're going to fund them through a bank or get a type of loan of that sort, there are a couple of things that you need to have. So one, you're going to want to go to a local bank. Most local banks are easier to work with when it comes to these kind of assets. For some reason, the larger banks haven't caught on to how great these assets are yet.
I have a feeling they will soon.
I think so. Like, they're starting to get such a buzz that they're starting to get it, but definitely local banks are always willing to invest in their own community, which I think is extremely great. And you can usually get better terms from them. So anything that we've ever done, like we did do one on a hybrid where we did bring in a bank, a private money partner, and seller financed. And that was actually our first park. The local bank actually gave us the best terms. But in order to do that, there's also other things that you have to have in place. So one of the biggest ones is that you're going to have a sponsor. And having a sponsor looks like somebody who has experience in the asset class or something similar. So our sponsor had built 7 hotels in the area.
So basically, someone to vouch for you.
Correct. They also have to have a net worth of more than the asset that you're trying to buy, and they have to be liquid.
Got it. Okay.
And so those are the biggest things that you're going to be looking for when it comes to somebody who is going to sponsor you in something like this. And you're going to need one. The banks won't let you do a loan with them without one. But the nice thing about it is that like our private money partner sponsored us in our first park and took us to the local bank. And because he had done so many deals with them, they actually closed our bank, gave us the greatest terms. They gave us actually 80%. Most of the time, they only give you 60% in this asset class. They gave us 80% of the loan, and they closed within 45 days.
Incredible.
Yeah. So they were great.
Okay, so once an RV park is up and running and you have everything pretty much dialed in, what kind of cash flow can an investor realistically expect?
Well, if you do what I said to do and go with something starting at 200,000 NOI, you should be able to increase that by $50,000 to $100,000 in the first year.
Nice.
So all of our parks have increased by at least 15%, I want to say. Our smallest park has increased by 15% in stays. Our cash flow has actually increased by $150,000. The first park, and that's our smallest park, so that's 51 pads. The other park that we did, we were about $100,000 more this year now that we've taken that one over. And then the other two that we're doing, we're actually looking at getting those. Our first park, we're hoping in the next 3 to 4 years, we get it to be about just under $1 million a year. Our second park, which is our smallest park, we're hoping to get that one to $500,000 in the next couple of years. Our third park in Virginia, we want to get to about right now it grosses 1.5. So we do about 600,000 with that one. We want to get that one to be a $2.5 million park. And then the fourth one that we're closing on this month, we actually want to get that one to be a $7 million a year park.
Wow. Yeah, I love that you guys created like strategies to pretty much maximize your profitability, right? You created all these different amenities, you made this fun experience from. Now, are you looking at your competition? Are they doing anything similar to what you're doing?
I think some of the bigger people are like Blue Metric, which are more of the corporates that are coming in. When it comes to other, groups that are coming in to buy them, I haven't seen anybody going to the scale that we are. But I think that they'll probably start doing that eventually. Maybe they're just starting out and they just need to kind of get one or two under their belt in order to get to that point. Heather, I know, has a park that does, I think it's like $2.5 million a year. So that one's really good and beautiful. And she's got all kinds of things. And I take a lot of things from her and what she does in her parks. So, and then a lot of them are creativity. It's just like, like I was just talking to my new park manager in Virginia, and she was like, I think this next year, let's add cabanas to the pool area and let's, charge a fee for them. And I was like, that's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, so, they were renting out chair seats this last year for $20 a seat for the day. And now we're going to add cabanas and charge like, $50 for the day. So just lots of different value add opportunities. Honestly, the greatest thing about RV parks is that you really are limited by your own imagination. This last Halloween, one of our parks, they did a trunk or treat. And so they used the golf carts. So people rented the golf carts 3 days before Halloween from us, paid us money for them, bought for $69 a day, rented them for 3 days, decorated them, paraded them around the park, and then did a trunk or treat for the kids. They paid us for the honor of doing that.
That's so awesome.
So, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it is. Definitely. Okay, so I think a lot of people, and I know I've even, including myself, I've done this. I think a lot of people confuse like mobile home parks with RV parks. So, with that being said, how do RV parks differ in cash flow and returns versus something like a mobile home park or maybe even storage units and multifamily properties?
Well, I think one of the biggest ways that they differ is in the cash flow, because one, when you go into like a mobile home park, an apartment, or a storage unit, you pay a monthly fee. So it's like $120, say, for the monthly fee in a mobile home park or a storage unit. For an apartment, it's $1,200 a month, right?
Right.
So you get this one payment. Well, mine, you come in for a daily, weekly, or monthly stay, and it's all done on dynamic pricing. And so if I have a really busy weekend, I'm not charging you $69 for that same pad. On a really busy weekend where I know we're booking up really quickly, it automatically goes up into dynamic pricing. Now we're charging you $75 a pad for the night. And so it completely changes the game plan. I'm not going to make, $160 for the month for you to do a storage unit. I'm going to make $2,000 on that same pad in that same month.
That's awesome.
And so my cash flow is a lot higher because I can change the dynamic of my park at any given time.
That makes sense. And are most of your guests that stay there, are they typically long-term? Are they short-term? What does that scenario look like?
So we always have a hybrid. So we look at our parks individually and say, okay, if we wanted to keep all of the lights on, make sure that all of the bills are paid and all of our people are, all of our investors get their payments. What does that look like? So then we break the park up and say, okay, this is how many people we need to have in here all the time. And so like, for example, we have an 80 pad park. In order to keep all of the bills paid on that one, we need to have 20 pads full on a monthly fee. So we keep 20 pads. We actually keep 25 pads full because we like to have it padded. And they keep all of our bills paid, everybody paid back, all of our loans serviced, everything is done through them. Plus they pay for their own electricity. So we don't pay for that. That comes out of them. And then the rest of our park, the 55, 60 other pads, 55 other pads, we rent out for nightlies and weeklies. And we charge anywhere from $40 to $65 a night.
Awesome. Okay. And so I want to talk about a little bit about the red flags. What type of red flags or specific issues should we be cautious about when evaluating potential RV park investments?
Some of the biggest red flags are, do they have septic issues? Those are probably some of the most expensive things that you're going to look at.
Okay.
Don't always tell you right off the bat. So you need to kind of do a little legwork and find out, like, some of the questions we ask is, when was the last time you guys renovated and what did you guys do? And so that kind of gives us a good idea. Then we start asking questions like, if you had a bucket list of items that you would do, what would you do? And that's kind of when some of that stuff starts to come out, because they'll say something like, oh, I changed the septic system. Okay, well, let's talk about your septic system. What's wrong with it? Flooding is a big one that people don't always ask about. Like, you need to know if you're in a flood zone. You need to know if there's something like a reverse surge that is going to happen if you're next to a river. Because we looked at a property in Colorado, and every year there is a problem with the river that runs right through it. And it does this overflow, and it floods out part of the park. Well, you need to know if you're going to be down for part of the season, and can you handle that? Do you have a bad reputation? I'm not saying don't go into a park with a bad reputation. We did that and repositioned it, and now it's a great place. But you need to know what you're going into. Does it have a bad reputation? Look at reviews. Find out what people are complaining about. Find out what people think are great. Is your manager horrible? Is that what one of the, is that a main issue that you see on your review? Maybe you just need to change your manager. Your bathrooms are always dirty. Maybe you need to hire a better cleaning company. When was the park built? It'll give you an idea of the systems that they have in place and exactly what you need to do it. Look for their online presence. Do you need to add a web page? Do you need to have a one-click button that will book you for the night? You probably do. A lot of parks do not have an online presence at all. So those are kind of the things that you need to look for. And then you need to figure out what's going on in the neighborhood. Do you have large things that are coming in? What brings people to that area? What are the other parks doing in the area? What are their prices? Do you have room to expand your prices?
Right.
So those are huge things that you can look at.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I know with my multifamily unit, I'm required by the city of Dallas to have a COO, basically a certificate of occupancy, right? Now, are there any permits or licenses required to run a park?
The other glory of RV parks against multifamily is that we also have less regulations and less things that we have to go through. But one of the things you do have to have is you do have to have a business license. And so you apply for that every year. You also have your tax license. You have to have all that stuff in place. And so just go into your city, township, your county, or your city and just find out what those rules and regulations are. We're on a great first name basis with a lot of the officials at our city just because we like to know who we're working with. And actually one of the things that we found out when we bought our first park was that they had rezoned it into a non-RV park. And so we had to get it rezoned back.
I wonder why did they do that?
It was just a mistake on the previous, from the previous owner and also the previous administration. They'd gone through and actually sent out postcards to everybody stating that they were rezoning things and that you needed to reply to this postcard. Well, the previous owner didn't get the postcard or didn't see the postcard and didn't reply in time. So they just kept going. And then the owner that we bought it from actually didn't have a business license on it. So he never found out that he wasn't supposed to be there. And that is one of the things that you do have to be careful with mom and pops, is that, you know, sometimes they've had these parks for so long that they've kind of slipped under the cracks of the rules and regulations. And then when you go in, you find out that they either don't have a business license or they're not zoned.
Okay. Now, in your experience, Michelle, what has been the best way to market your RV parks and attract guests?
One of the best ways that I've seen is definitely from other guests. Making sure that you know, land in the top searches with Google. Good reviews are amazing. We like to bring in a thing called campground views, where they actually come in and they will map out your park, but they show you video. One of the biggest reasons why people will leave a park in the first night is because they didn't get what they expected. And so if you have a really good video on what your park looks like and what to expect when you come in, you have a less likely chance of somebody leaving and asking for a refund.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually, to put like a whole video together and just have like this whole visual experience of what you can expect when you get into this park. That way, when you get there, you already know what to expect. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Okay.
And that is definitely one of the biggest things, is that a lot of people will come into them and they'll not get what they expected. And that's why they don't want to be there anymore. And so if you can have them, like, they'll come in, campground views is great. They actually start from your entrance and they will actually go through and show you each pad as you're driving through. And so everybody knows exactly what they're getting. They know exactly what they're coming in for. They know what every facility in the park looks like. And it gives that there's no questions.
Okay, so what's the end game? What is your exit? Are these like long-term holds, or is your plan to build them up and then eventually sell? Like what is your plan with these?
Well, I think it depends on each park. So what we're doing with our fund is, right now it's a 5-year hold. And so we want to buy 10 to 15 parks with our fund and actually be able to reposition them and get them to the highest cash flowing that we can possibly get them at. And then we will evaluate each park as they come, as they mature. And at that point, what we'll do is we'll decide which ones we keep and which ones we sell. If they're cash flowing well, what we'll end up doing is we'll actually roll it into a fund 2 and give our investors the option to invest in the second fund so that they can continue to grow their money with it. And then if they're, you know, at a point where they're pretty maxed out and we can't cash flow them more than what they're at, and we don't know if, and we want to acquire more assets, then what we'll do is we'll just sell them and, you know, cash everybody out with that. So.
Got it.
So it's more along the lines of, we always think of the end goal. The end goal is to cash flow them as much as possible. But if they are not performing to the standard that we want them to, or if we feel like we have an opportunity to take on another asset that will perform better, then we'll sell it and reinvest that capital into something else.
Makes sense. Okay, so if you could take the knowledge that you have right now, go back and talk to Michelle before she bought her first RV park, would you do anything different? And what single piece of advice would you give yourself?
You know what? I don't know if I would do anything different. I think that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Love that.
That I'm supposed to be there. Like, I feel like there's just this thing in the universe that whatever is meant for you is always going to happen for you. And I've always been that way. So I don't think I would change anything. I'm actually very pleased with how fast we've moved. I'm very much an activator and I just jump in full force. I think that if I were to give advice to anybody on the other end of this who is starting out, my biggest piece of advice is just to jump in and do something. And, you know, imperfect action is always better than perfect action not taken.
Yes. And stop overthinking, overthinkers.
And I'm going to tell you, like, everybody sits here and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how fast you moved. The only reason we moved fast isn't because I made perfect choices or perfect decisions. The reason why we moved so fast is because we were okay being imperfect.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. And that is honestly the biggest game changer, is just knowing when to just make action happen and just do it imperfectly and learn.
You could have sat on the sidelines and thought, I'm just going to read another book or I'm going to watch another video on RV parks and maybe in a year I'll be ready.
Yeah.
And look, you could have held yourself back and you would have never accomplished what you've accomplished. You know, like you said, take imperfect action. Who cares? You're going to make mistakes. Even the best of the best make mistakes, right? Just get out there and take action.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to tell you, never been in an RV park, never owned an RV, never even knew they existed before I bought my first one. And now I'm closing in on 5. We've
So
increased our
incredible.
net worth by $20 million this last year. And we are buying parks that are like $11 million at this point. So imperfect action beats perfect action not taken every single time.
Life changing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for those who are ready to take action today, what's the next step they should take right after listening to this episode?
Well, the first step I would say is go out to my webpage, michellebisson.com. I do workshops, we do webinars. You can also invest in our fund. You can find all that information there. If you're not a part of the Sub2 community and you want to learn about creative financing, you also have a link out there that you can join, which I think is amazing, because I learned so much about creative financing. Learning that I could buy assets without any money was mind-blowing to me. Yeah, just completely life-changing. Like, I wasted so much time buying things conventionally.
You live and you learn.
You live and you learn. But you know what? It's all part of the process. It's all part of the journey. And honestly, my biggest advice always goes back to just jump in and learn and do something. Don't sit on the sidelines and read another book. Don't say, I'll do it in a year. You won't get to it. Something always happens. Something always changes. The market is never perfect. People always say that too. They're always like, well, I'm going to wait till the market gets better. I'm going to tell you, this last year, everybody complained about the market, and it was probably the best time to get in, because I am now positioned for the growth, and I'm positioned on either side. I can take people when times are bad. I can take people when times are good, and I'm going to cash flow either way because I took action.
Especially with creative finance, we don't care what the market's doing. We're capitalizing.
Yes, absolutely. It is the biggest game changer. So
Awesome. Well, Michelle, you're an absolute badass. You've accomplished so much in such a small time frame, and I can only imagine where you're going to be next year, let alone another 4 to 5. I'm
thank
truly
you.
honored to be a part of the same tight knit community as you, and also have the pleasure of calling you a friend. So thank you.
Thank you. I have the honor of calling you a friend, and thank you so much for inviting me on. This was so much fun, and I enjoy talking to you so much.
Same here. And by the way, I am planning on making it to one of your next 2-day workshops as well. So hopefully I'll be seeing you and Patrick soon.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're going to hold one in Scottsdale next. But yeah, I can't wait to find out that you're under contract on your first park.
I will be doing it. You will be hearing soon. So, okay, perfect. So, Michelle, where can people get a hold of you?
Definitely find me on Instagram at MycheleBisson.com. It's MyChelebisson. I do answer my DMs if you're curious. So that would be one of the best places. And you can also, like I said, sign up and be a part of my webpage. So one of the things about being in my workshops is that you get to be a part of my private community. And over the next couple of years, we're going to start filtering some of our deals that we actually don't take, but are still good deals, through there to my students. So
awesome. Now, if you guys are finding value from this podcast, don't forget to show your boy some love. If you like what we're bringing you, don't forget to subscribe. It helps us continue providing value to others by reaching a broader audience. We're out here to serve, learn together, and help as many people as possible, so be much appreciated. Make sure to also smash that like button and drop a comment down below telling us what you found most valuable from this topic, and if you're ready to dive into the RV park investing yourself. Appreciate all the continued support. And guys, stay tuned because we're pumping these episodes out every 2 weeks. I got some awesome topics and guests coming up next that will change the entire way you do business. You definitely don't want to miss out. Best believe I'm going to keep bringing you that fire. Peace. Thanks, Michelle.
thank you.